Can we say that it's never a good thing when a person dies? Because honestly, this whole TwoMad's situation, well, his situation has got me thinking. And maybe also feeling like this tweet here, because, we should say it's not a good thing that a person is dead, even if that person was a horrible human being, right? Is it okay to collectively feel bad that we lost them? Maybe even mourn them? I don't know, I'm just throwing that out there so that you'll have it at the back of your mind as we look at the rather odd and really scary ways that TwoMad went from being your average, unproblematic YouTuber to arguably being among the most controversial and, dare I say, hated content creators around. Now, I'm definitely going to go through what we know so far about his death for the sake of the two of you that might still be in the dark, but first let's roll back a bit to the unproblematic days of TwoMad. Getting some quick facts out of the way, TwoMad, real name Mudea Sedek, was Canadian-born, from Manitoba to be specific, but of Ethiopian descent. He was living in LA and, of course, was widely known for his YouTube success with the gaming, skits, and commentary type of content. And when I say he was known for his success, I really mean it, because in what I'd consider really impressive by any measure, he started 3 channels between April 2016 and October 2019, and concurrently grew them all massively. 2 of these channels, TwoMad and 3Mad, are actually known to many. They were the popular ones, as both have over 2 million subscribers. And if we're comparing, TwoMad is what you'd consider his best channel overall, with about 2.23 million subscribers and 199 video uploads. This was the channel he began in 2016. And you can clearly see that from the word go, right from the very first video, he was getting a decent number of views. Heck, he even got close to 2 million views on his 5th video on that channel. Again, impressive. And the story is honestly very similar for the 3Mad channel. Not only does it have about 2.18 million subscribers with a total of 156 videos, but also got to over 1 million views on a video before the 10th video. His 3rd channel, 2Mad Gang 9324, is where the story changes a bit. He had neglected it, last posting there about a year ago, and it had a slower growth curve with only 278,000 subscribers and 33 videos in total. Although he did say in that channel's About section that he intended for it to be a podcast channel one day. So he may have been intentionally preserving it for the future. Maybe waiting for his brand to get beyond a certain point first? I don't know, I'm just speculating. Beyond YouTube, he also had built himself a decent social media following, close to 600,000 followers on Twitter and about 423,000 followers on his now private Instagram. Now, all these numbers are pretty impressive, as I already pointed out, but what's arguably more important is that they outline the profile of someone who was committed to building something. I mean, he even had a whole channel dedicated to a future podcast that he probably knew he would need. No one does that without some sort of vision, right? And another important thing is that looking across the 3 channels that he had, all his first videos were really what a typical YouTuber would be dabbling in. Looking at 2Mad, for example, a good chunk of the content from the first year was just gaming stuff. You know, clips like this, where he's playing and doing commentary. Or rather, screaming out stuff, but you get the point. You'll find the same stuff in his early days on the 3Mad channel as well.
Let's go one more level. Let me show you how good Blitz really is, bro.
And even when he pivoted to vlogs, they were leaning on the unproblematic side at first. Like here, where he did one shaving his head bald.
Remove the clip thing.
What clip thing? What do you want about?
The black thing
There's a clip on the razor.
But you're supposed to use that. I have thick hair. It's not gonna come off.
Nothing odd with that, right? I mean, it's just a typical video on YouTube that gets people to click, which overall, coming back to my argument, shows someone who just started off a career on YouTube with a solid plan for the future. And what I think is an even better testament to that is what other YouTubers who worked with him have had to say about his early days. Moist Critical, for example, one of the most respected names around, made a video talking of TwoMad's death, and in it, this is what he says.
I can't remember if I mentioned this at the start of his spiral or not, but he worked with our agency. Like, Matt and him communicated very frequently because we'd get him like ads for his videos and such. And there was like this switch that flipped.
So yes, he did work with Moist Critical's agency, Mana Talent Group, communicating regularly with Matt Phillips, a manager there. And ignoring the switch that Moist Critical is talking about, I want to emphasize the bit about TwoMad having had such an impressive resume to even be hired by that agency. They were giving him ads, something that obviously doesn't happen unless a channel has reached a certain milestone. Another YouTuber who paints a picture of who TwoMad was in his early days is Jabroni, a creator who is currently doing well for himself, though not at the level of Moist Critical. In a Twitter thread, Jabroni explains that TwoMad's video inspired him as he started his first channel. The specific words being, "He was somebody whose videos inspired me a lot when I first started my channel." He also adds, "When TwoMad was at his best, he was creative, funny, and you never knew what he was going to say or do next. It was refreshing." So, anyway, all that put together sort of proves my argument that contrary to how some people are portraying him now as someone who was troubled all through, he had a great beginning. In fact, that's what Jabroni confirms as he ends his thread by saying that he mourns the version of TwoMad from 4, 5, 6 years ago, a time when he held so much potential. Now let me squeeze in here that even though he pissed off a lot of people, some of his stuff was really good in the eyes of everyone. What I have in mind saying that is the viral "Goodnight Girl" meme.
Good night, girl. I'll see you tomorrow.
It came from this original video, and that hilarious fall at the end right after he says "Goodnight Girl" made people turn the whole thing into a meme, remixing it in all sorts of different ways. From this piano version
Good night, girl. I'll see you tomorrow.
to this animated version.
Good night, girl. I'll see you tomorrow.
One thing I have to be careful to say here, though, is that I hope none of what I've covered so far comes across as excusing the horrible things that TwoMad did later in his career. Anyone who has followed him closely would know that even in his earlier days that I just went through, they did have bits and pieces of horrible stuff that got him in trouble. For instance, in July of 2021, he got banned from TikTok for posting this video.
What the hell, boy?
With the reason being that he was fat shaming. That's obviously a horrible thing to do and perhaps would get banned on any social media platform. Well, maybe not all, but definitely most. Earlier on, in April 2019, he'd also got banned from Twitch for this incident.
Oh shit, you're cool now. Jet's cool.
He basically encouraged someone to climb the Lincoln Monument and was live streaming it, showing the person getting arrested and everything. Again, that's probably not the best kind of content to be making. It shows you that he still had some rough edges, even at the start. Now that I've given you that crash course on TwoMad's early days, let's jump straight to his death. And I'm going to start with what's certain. So, the official coroner's report from the County of Los Angeles Medical Examiner website, which Jabroni found by the way, lists the date of his death as February 13th. What's also certain is that he was found dead in his LA home by officers from the LAPD, who had apparently gone there for a welfare check after TwoMad had missed a couple of appointments. TMZ claimed that their sources told them TwoMad hadn't been heard from in several days by concerned parties, who then requested a welfare check. Also kind of disturbing is the fact that he seemed to have died while playing Overwatch. He was a passionate gamer. I just talked about how his earlier videos were all around gaming stuff, and apparently for the couple of days that he was not heard from, his Discord page showed that he was playing Overwatch. That status had not changed for a whole 6 days, and even upon the news of his death, it remained so. This is actually what led some to believe that he was literally logged into the game when he died. Anyway, that TMZ article also claimed that drug paraphernalia were found at the scene, which led the LAPD to investigate a possible overdose. The investigation is still ongoing. Reports on his death also add that no foul play was suspected at all. Now, as of the posting of this video, it still remains unknown as to the exact cause of his death. That means that we don't know for sure if it was an overdose. His body, though, has apparently already been released to his family, with the autopsy having been completed. Everyone is now awaiting the toxicology report, and normally such a report may take weeks. Maybe this is also the right point to mention that there have been all sorts of wild speculations on what really went down. For instance, someone posted this clip, allegedly posted 5 hours before his death. You can somewhat tell what the person is getting at.
I'm gonna speak facts. Uber Eats is ruining my life. It's like I can't even control myself anymore. It's just, I think I'm dying. I barely spend any money. It's just all going to Uber Eats. Like, all my money that I spend, my expenditures, they go straight to fucking Uber.
A suggestion that TwoMad might have had issues relating to eating too much junk food. Although I am speculating a bit here based on such comments from that video. One thing for sure, though, is that while TwoMad's cause of death remains uncertain, people did not hold back from celebrating the news anyway. Here is someone calling it the best birthday gift. Here is someone else insisting that he won't be missed. Here is someone calling it a great thing for 2024. I mean, such tweets are endless. I could go on, but you get the point. Now, instead of focusing on these, clearly insensitive, celebratory tweets, I think it makes more sense to try to understand why he was so controversial. That's really the point of this video after all. Why was he in everyone's bad books? And the best place to start is the drugs. From my own investigations, digging around online, it seems very obvious that TwoMad's downward spiral started with the drugs. As I already showed you, Moist Critical does, for example, talk about a switch in TwoMad's behavior where he would say really effed up things. That was a path that TwoMad would never recover from. Moist Critical goes on to explain that he actually heard disturbing things about TwoMad from other creators in real life. Some of that stuff is what came out following TwoMad's death, but more on that in a bit. What I should add here is that the switch Moist Critical is talking about is also echoed by Jabroni, who I also mentioned earlier. Jabroni's tweets suggest that TwoMad lost passion along the way. Reading in part, I think after he moved to LA, things began to change. He started posting videos less, started using substances more, and he seemed like he lost his passion for YouTube. Out of curiosity and also for you guys, I went on to try to find the specific drug that he was using, and what I can say is that it's highly suspected that it was ketamine. Mostly because of this clip, which happens to be from his last ever stream. And that's not the only time ketamine was brought up in relation to TwoMad. A few months back, this screenshot was going around. In it, he admits that he was doing 200 milligrams of ketamine 3 to 7 times a week. Some argued that such a dosage was quite high and would definitely explain his unhinged behavior, including out-of-body experiences and ego dissolution. Also, this lines up pretty well with how he was in general, because his content, particularly what he'd tweet, and he tweeted a lot, was all over the place. He reeked of apathy. And it was the tweets that would accelerate his spiral, as they forged new enemies he didn't probably anticipate. But before we get into that, let's move right into one of the dominant allegations, the one by Jameski, which was obviously a big part of why TwoMad had been viewed as controversial from earlier on. So, shortly after news of TwoMad's death came out, Jameski went ahead to tweet this. He outrightly called him a rapist and a pedophile, adding that TwoMad would prey on the vulnerable, even after the police got involved, including a 13-year-old in a mental hospital. Now that tweet has actually opened an entire can of worms, so to say, and definitely led to a bit of blowback on James himself, especially because he initially never provided any proof to back up his claims. That's not even considering the awkward timing of the accusations. Anyway, I dug a bit more, and under that tweet, a user named ShadowsXTwilight responded with this. When pressed further, they added this. Still, that may not be evidence enough, as TwoMad posting the girl on his Instagram could just be part of the sick jokes he was known for. Although another argument would be that a 23-year-old man had no business posting a 13-year-old on his social media in that manner, especially given the outfit she had on. At the very best, a very thin line lies between that and pedophilic behavior. But even if Jameski's post could be discarded in terms of evidence of how controversial TwoMad was, there's still plenty more stuff out there. A Twitter user named GlocksGoldie did, for example, come forward in June 2023, accusing TwoMad of sexually assaulting her and stalking her for months. Part of it apparently started during a Discord conversation when TwoMad invited that user to watch some gory stuff with him. In the shared screenshot of that conversation, this one, you can see TwoMad is offering to show them shooting videos. The same user later, on June 2023, made a tweet describing TwoMad as the most psychopathic person in real life. TwoMad made unwanted sexual advances on her, and it seems he was completely in the wrong because he admitted to his mistake, though this was after several attempts of her trying to block him. Now, what's really unhinged about this specific accusation is that it all was fueled by TwoMad's apparent love for the victim. She said that he met her in October 2022 and liked her, and then things just went sideways. He got delusional and allegedly even made 6 different numbers so he could keep texting her stuff like this. And it doesn't stop there. There was a lot more, including him claiming that Bianca Devins, a murdered trans girl's killer, was based. Also, the fact that he made her sign this document to try and prevent her from cutting him off after he had allegedly already sexually assaulted her. I don't know if I can clearly make it out, but part of that document is him making her believe there'd be no more sexual assault in how they related going forward. Pretty sick stuff overall. Now, despite the video apology when he saw things getting out of hand, he responded with this and this. His argument was basically that it was all cancel culture, and that he had done the video apology because he was desperate to establish a relationship with her, and not because he was guilty of all the stuff that she'd said. Besides the sexual allegations, TwoMad had also been accused of murder threats. The Jameski tweet I shared a while back clearly states that TwoMad tried to murder him. And note this, multiple times over a couple of years. Reason? Well, James had been helping the police in multiple states investigate TwoMad for multiple horrible things. Now, those are heavy accusations, but luckily this time James had someone backing him up. Rubber Ross quoted James' tweet with this. James then went on to give a detailed account of the entire TwitchCon incident and other situations that involved law enforcement. I'll not go too much into that because the TwitchCon tweet could be a whole video on its own. However, I'll add that I think what made this situation tricky for James, and what might have prompted him to come forth only after TwoMad had died, is that this guy was dangerous. He was known to possess firearms. I don't know about you guys, but it feels like if someone so unhinged is posting a firearm like this around, you'd want to stay clear of their path until at least they're no longer a threat. And I'm saying that to sort of side with James a little bit, as again, a lot of what makes TwoMad be seen as controversial was triggered by his first tweet. And that's beside the stuff that had come out earlier in 2023. Last, one of the cases that also remains unforgettable is the time that he tweeted this. Someone had called him out for his endless nonsensical tweets, and in an attempt to clap back, he shared that photo of his girlfriend. Only that it wasn't really his girlfriend, but rather a picture of 16-year-old Brianna Gay, a British trans girl who had been murdered earlier in 2023. When people called him out, he responded with this rather condescending tweet. He actually lost a lot of people who had been on his side at that point because no one really believed that he didn't know what he was doing. Now, while whatever I've included in this video is a lot, there's still much more that I've left out. That includes cases such as that of Zestella, who on Twitter too reveals how TwoMad was harassing her, with proof of it all. And also the claim by James that Justaminx on Twitter was actively encouraging TwoMad to take his own life days before he finally did. However, I believe you get the overall point. He was controversial because he got into drugs and went down a spiral that included sexual harassment, stalking, issuing murder threats, and a host of other deranged behavior that even had someone trying to encourage him towards suicide. The question remains, though, can we mourn losing the person he was before all that? I'll leave you to answer that.